Hi, I'm standing on Harcourt Hill Monday morning, and I'm pleased because I've just found what I was looking for there. I did a Springwalk video, Springwalk 7, about 2 weeks ago when I talked about horsetails, the plant whose genus is technically called Equisetum. And I explained how they grow and how they follow the cycle of the seasons. And I've just found what I was looking for in the clump of horsetails that I examined last time at the bottom of Harcourt Hill. I've moved up here just out of the way of the traffic noise from the main road nearby, but I'll go down in a minute. Let me explain again first. Horsetails are a sort of sister class of plants to ferns. They don't have flowers. They reproduce by spores. In ferns, the spores are generally found in irregular brown blobs or lines at the back of the leaves, or the underside of the leaves, or fronds I should say. In horsetails, they're found in funny little cones which look a bit like fungi. Horsetails have two types of stem, so-called fertile and sterile. The sterile stems are just called that because they don't contain any reproductive organs, and they're the main part of the plant that you see later in the year. They're stiff, grooved, green central stems with circlets of much smaller stems coming out at intervals. And you'll see them around Oxford. One of the best growths that I know is at the bottom of Shotover Hill, near some of the big houses as you walk towards Horsepath. So those are the so-called sterile stems. Fertile stems appear earlier in the year, and they contain the spores. These funny fungal-looking cones contain spores, and when the spores fall onto the ground, they sort of germinate. They develop into an independent, free-living organism called a prothallus, and that does various things and eventually gives rise to a new horsetail. When I came up Harcourt Hill last time, I was hoping to find the fertile stems, but I was too early in the year. But we've had some absolutely wonderful weather, just sun after sun after sun, and that seems to have accelerated things. And I'm pleased to say that nature has come up trumps. Actually, I'm probably not allowed to say that anymore, trumps. But anyway, nature seems to know what it's been doing, and it should know how to do it, because these plants have been around for 300 million years, since the beginning of the Carboniferous era, when the plants that now make up our coal were growing. So they've had plenty of practice, and I'm now going to walk down and find them. That's a funny name. Now I need to step into this person's garden because I'm not quite sure where the boundary between the garden and the wood is. I hope they won't mind. So those are some of the fertile stems, so-called, of horsetails. I won't take one apart because there are plenty of pictures available if you just Google fertile horsetail stems. And I don't want to be known as the man who tipped the population balance below 1 and wiped them out for the next 300 million years. Those dishevelled stems are last year's sterile stems. And I showed those in more detail in my Springwalk 7 video. They won't grow again, they're completely dead, but in due course the plant will throw up new sterile stems and they'll be a beautiful sort of lush green and very impressive with their little circlets of smaller stems around them like crowns. And by the way, an odd mathematical connection. The spacing of the circlets of little stems around the big central stem varies. They get closer together as you go to the top of the stem. And I read that it was that idea of varying the spacing on a ruler or similar that gave John Napier the idea of logarithms. Whether that's true, I don't know. I need to follow it up. But anyway, this is a very brief Springwalk video just showing the fertile stems of horsetail, of equisetum, which I've now managed to find. See you next time.